Alrighty, I think we'll just let a few people tune in. But you will be joining the Global Star Party, Episode 2, the shortened Gremlins version, folks. So bear with us on this one. Right then. Okay, I can see a few people have started to watch. So hello and welcome to Episode 2 of the Global Star Party. What you are watching right now is going to be a weekly show broadcasting live views of the sky, various planets, etc., and also showing and sharing photos taken by our group of enthusiastic astronomers to show you what's up there and to discuss how these photos were taken. We're a bit short on live views this time around, I'm afraid. Clouds and technology are not playing ball with us. We're hoping to get Paul Stewart in. We keep clicking the button and seeing if it works, because he should be able to bring us a live view of the sun, despite this being the USA-Canada version. We're relying on a guy in New Zealand. So first of all, I think I shall introduce myself, Chris Kennedy, your host for this possibly shorter show than normal, and joining me tonight we have Kevin Franklin. Say hello, Kevin.
Hi, everybody.
And welcome. Whereabouts are we coming from today?
From the sunny, no, not so sunny Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia.
Fantastic. And also joining us today we have Dylan, who is joining us from.
I am joining you from sunny, not so sunny Byron Bay, just shy of the Gold Coast where Kevin Franklin is. I was actually outside with my white light solar filter on the little 4-inch telescope, and it started to actually rain on me just while we were setting up as part of the call. So I've moved inside. Unfortunately, that seems to be a bit of a theme for tonight's show. But we will persevere, and we will try to discuss some photography. And we have some wonderful photography that's been sent through to us. So it might be a shorter episode than usual, but we definitely have some stuff to share anyway.
I was going to say, this is going to be very much a case of we are going to try, regardless, we will do a broadcast, and if we get some live views in, hopefully more frequently in the future, but technology and gremlins, and also me being a bit of an idiot sometimes as well, because when I created this event, I created the wrong kind of event, so I'm sorry if you've had to follow through on a different link posted in the old event page. I will learn what I'm doing one day. Honest, folks. So what I think we shall start with today is I will got some pictures sent to me from, I'm sorry, I'm going to absolutely annihilate this name because it's French. I want to say Guillemets. I'm not sure. I'm sorry for annihilating the pronunciation of that. My French, well, let's put it this way. I failed GCSE French, so yeah. Not so good. So I shall share, well, I will share when I click the right wretched buttons. Yes, we're all learning and getting past these gremlins here. So, and hopefully my fellow co-conspirators here can help describe what we're looking at. No pressure, guys. Right then, screen sharing. This was one of the photos sent through, which should be showing up in just a second, if not already. And this is the Cygnus region, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, lovely.
Beautiful area of space. And this area here, this picture was taken with the Canon EOS 600D with a 50mm lens. And it was on an f1.8, so pretty fast kind of focal ratio there on a basic tripod, and it's a stack of 67 images. And
okay, so the shorter
very
exposure,
rich stuff here.
they're stacked.
Yes, that is a lot of stars in there, and some beautiful reddish areas here, which look somewhat hydrogen alpha-y. I'm assuming there's a lot of hydrogen in that area, from the looks of that.
Did he mention that whether or not he'd modified his camera for the infrared?
I should check.
The infrared filter?
There is no mention of any kind of modification there. I'm assuming if we're seeing that much red, there might be. I would have to actually ask him, but I think given the time it is in France right now, he may have actually gone to bed by this point.
Yeah, well, with an unmodified camera, there's an infrared filter put in front. So that, for those who aren't aware, there's an infrared filter in front of the sensor which allows you to achieve proper white balance for daytime photography. If you have that red filter removed, you end up with a very reddish tinge to everything, and it makes it very difficult to get natural-looking photos. Some photographers choose to remove that infrared filter, and you can do that yourself with some YouTube assistance, or you can get a professional to do it and hopefully get a more reliable result. Removing the infrared filter allows you to get a lot more hydrogen alpha light into the camera and get much brighter, more vivid coloured astrophotography. So that's what a lot of the dedicated DSLR astrophotographers are doing, and there are some proprietary models on the market. Canon do one, is it the 60A or 70A, whether they've upgraded the model recently.
I think it was 60, yeah.
And Nikon now does one too with the infrared filter. Almost useless for daytime photography. You can't use it now for your happy snaps, but dedicated astrophotography cameras.
I mean, as an example as well, I mean, without a telescope, without fancy guiding and all the other equipment that normally goes with astrophotography, it's still pretty impressive what you can do by simply sticking a camera on a tripod and pointing it at the right region of the sky. So, I mean, if you do have a camera, a tripod, and a bit of patience, you can actually start doing astrophotography relatively, I use the word relatively loosely here, cheaply, and almost immediately, assuming you've got clear skies, which unfortunately is something we're struggling for tonight, or this morning, depending on where you are.
Yeah. I'm going to guess as well that, oh, here comes Paul Stewart, that's fantastic. I'm going to guess as well that this particular photo isn't taken with a modified camera. What I'm looking at says that the Cygnus region has something like 800 distinct hydrogen regions. It's a very hydrogen-rich patch of the sky, and if you've seen those modified camera pictures, they are extremely red, and so I don't think you get that kind of more subtle purple and yellowish orangish hues. I could be wrong. It could be modified later, but
no, I'd be guessing that it's unmodified.
Yeah.
It looks like many of the pictures of the southern Milky Way that I've got. You really have to use longer exposures or higher ISO to make sure you get enough of the hydrogen alpha light in to get this sort of view. It's a lovely photo.
Mm.
Well, I think we shall have to come back to some of the other images because he's here. So I'm going to click on Paul, and yes, he's here. He made it. I don't know if he can hear us yet.
Okay, he says screen to remote connection from the house computer. No audio. We don't have any audio from Paul.
So he can't talk, but this is, yes, folks, we have it. We have a live view tonight. We have a live view of the sun.
A picture says 1,000 words.
And that is,
that's right.
And, well, I mean, we can see quite a few prominences around the edges there. Some nice light areas in the middle, some filaments, and I'm trying to spot a very definitive sunspot. I think that one there possibly, I'm not sure.
This is great. So you can actually see the frame rate as well. You can see that this is refreshing quite quickly because the sun is such a bright object. It is easy to do this with, but yeah, this is as live gets.
Yes, this is. You can actually see some of the kind of movement and wobble in the image there. I don't know if that's a factor of the refresh rate or something, but it's this is as live as you can get. Apart from possibly looking at the moon and the planets, this is immediately streamed to you from the other side of the planet for me. So that's pretty awesome. Of course, this is probably upside down, but you can never really tell with the sun, to be fair. So. Yeah.
Everything Paul does is upside down.
I think next time I shall start this show, I shall hang myself from the ceiling and I shall do this upside down. And it'll all make sense again. So yes, this is a live hydrogen alpha view of the sun. The sun, of course, is extremely bright, so don't ever look at it through any kind of optics or with your bare eyes, because you will do some damage or go blind. Both pretty bad. but this is obviously through a specialist telescope. I think Paul uses a Lunt. I can't remember what size it was. Was it 60 or 80?
80. I think it might be 80 doubles there.
And this basically blocks out like 99.9% of the light coming in, and then what light does come in is through the very narrow slither of hydrogen alpha light. So it's a very thin slither of the red spectrum, where a lot of the sun's, correct me if I'm wrong, atmospheric activity occurs. So you're looking actually at the sun's atmosphere and its various features. So you have prominences and filaments. Filaments really are prominences just viewed face on. And these things can jump off the edges of the sun. They can rain back down. They're quite spectacular to watch. And then you have sunspots, which are cooler regions and kind of magnetic storms. And the sun is a wonderfully dynamic thing to look at, and thankfully Paul is just brilliant at bringing it to us live when he's able to connect, which is excellent.
Yes. And I should jump in. What I'm looking at here on space weather, the two regions up the top are sunspots 2361 and 2362, which is sort of top left, and 2362 is meant to be the one that will be sort of firing up. Apparently with C-class solar flares at the moment. So as this continues to move around, we should see a lot more activity. Also, last week, Chris, you mentioned the polarity of the sunspots and that they happen to show up in pairs. Now, I didn't have an answer for you then because I had asked this question of another solar imager just recently. And they told me, oh no, they don't appear in pairs. And so I went back last night and I did some reading, and yes, they do appear in pairs. Sometimes they appear as distinct spots, and the pair can be. Paul's just going to switch to calcium too, which is great. Sometimes we can only see the one spot, and you have to actually look at NASA's magnetosphere imaging to see where the other side of that north-south polarity is. But a lot of these sunspots do appear in pairs, and when they flare out, you'll have both sides of the flare coming out of one of those sunspots. Something else interesting that I read yesterday was that the way they appear is consistent. So you'll have north-south, 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 and then every 11 years, as the solar cycle changes, that will flip to south-north, south-north, south-north. And I think we're in a period of south-north during solar cycle 24, and we're about midway, or just passing midway through that solar cycle. So a really active sunspot time, and probably a good excuse for me to go out and buy a solar scope, because we are at the peak of the solar cycle.
There's never a bad time to buy a solar scope. It's very addictive, and it is really a wonderful thing to look at. Quite transformative, I'd say, from going from, oh, that's the sun in the sky, to looking through a scope like this and realizing, yes, it is a star amongst the many billions out there. It's our local star. Just a quick shout out to Tom, who's joined us this evening again. Hello, Tom. He's coming from a very sunny and hot Portland. So yeah, hello. Paul is going to bring us some white light, and right on cue. Check that out.
Wow.
That's just showing off.
Here are the pairs that we're talking about. You can see them as clear as sorry for the pun, but as clear as day.
That is fantastic, Paul. So yes, I mean you can clearly see. Now, I never get this the right way around. There's penumbra and umbra. I think when it comes to, I may get the wrong terminology there. The outer edges of the sunspots, they're brighter. They have a specific set of names. I can never remember them now. This is why I need Paul to. Okay, phew. I mean, this again a live view of the sun, but this time around in white light. So this is all the spectrum coming in, but just dimmed down. So this is pretty much what your eyes see, but without going blind in this case, because it's been dimmed down to the point where it's safe. So we've got this lovely white light view right now, and it's great for looking at granulation, seeing sunspots in this kind of nice fine detail.
It's definitely a much cheaper way of getting into solar imaging to start with, is just buying yourself some beta film, a neutral density film. You can buy neutral density filters that you can put straight on the end of your DSLR camera, on the end of your telescope. Yeah, there are some that Dylan's showing us now. And it's very cheap, very easy, and you can get right into solar imaging and get images like this one. The hydrogen alpha setups and the calcium is a step up in price and a step up in commitment. But if you're looking to get white light photos, then definitely just get some of that film and stick it on the front of the telescope, and yeah, you're good to go.
I mean, again, it's that Paul here is using a Lunt solar wedge to get this image, so that's I'm not particularly familiar with that kind of equipment, but it's like an energy rejection filter that sits at the back of the scope, I think. Again, it's not a piece of gear that I'm particularly familiar with, but again, it's a way of making this kind of observation safe. It's, as I say, is that cliched thing, but you really have to get it out there that looking at the sun is dangerous. Paul says it's like a diagonal, but it only passes less than 1% of the light. I mean, that is how bright the sun is. It damages equipment and eyeballs, but so that's, as I say, a very dimmed down image. So I'm gonna start making demands of Paul now and say, can you bring us some calcium K?
Yeah, and that white light, as Kevin was saying, is really cheap to get into. I bought $40 worth of the film and just chucked it on a pair of binoculars. I had some spare to chuck on some other glasses I had lying around, and I had enough spare after that to throw some on the telescope as well. So it's really cheap, and you just have to be careful, because you don't want, if you do it wrong, you'll burn your eyes out. So no,
if there's so much as a scratch.
Yes, just be very, very careful.
Yes. So yes, you may have gathered, folks. Big safety advice: don't burn your eyeballs out. You've seen what happens to ants with magnifying glasses. Same thing with your eyes. Not that I would suggest such cruelty to animals. So whilst I'm, demanding Paul brings us some calcium K, Paul's like, I have to run out to the observatory every time I change something. The things I do for science. Yes,
maybe we can flick to a photo while we watch the calcium.
Let's go back. I think. Oh well. Let's bring a classic object in. Something was one of the first objects I ever photographed. Can we guess what it is, folks? It's a pretty common one to photograph, but nonetheless, good old
yes.
This is a beautiful emission nebula stellar nursery in the constellation of Orion. With some extremely hot ionized gas floating around in there, and it is beautiful to look at, even with a set of binoculars. It's a pretty big nebula, and especially spectacular if you do have a telescope, but yes, even binoculars will bring you this. And the color, normally when you're observing things, the color is not particularly apparent, because your eyes are just not sensitive enough to the very faint light that's coming in. But I have found, even with this particular object, that you can make out that hint of that pinkish blue coming through. It's quite fantastic to look at.
And it is very bright as well. Sometimes it's referred to as a beginner object, because when you start getting into astrophotography, it is an easy one to train your camera and your telescope onto, and just run off a single exposure and get a really nice result out of that. But once you start going down the rabbit hole of astrophotography, you realize that this object can be quite problematic, because the bright region, they call the trapezium in the middle there, really blows out really quickly. So once you start doing long exposures, that just turns into just a white blob. So yes, it is a beginner's object in that you can get quick photos of it, but if you do want to get something of this level, where you start getting the cloud detail and you can see the inner stars popping out there from the trapezium, that takes a little bit more work.
Yes, I mean, one technique I've used myself to kind of get the fainter outer details and keep the central details is you take a series of shots which expose the central area correctly. Then you take a series of shots that expose the outer areas nicely and overblow the two, and then you merge the two as a hybrid image. It's kind of like a HDR technique, and that way you can keep all the detail. I mean, this particular image, to give you an idea of how bright it is, this was taken prime focus on a Newtonian telescope, f4, and it's 10 images of 30 seconds exposure at ISO 1600. So, I mean, that's... I mean, I know I've tried to photograph various galaxies, things like that, and you normally start getting exposure times of, you know, multiple minutes, etc. But for 30 seconds, you know, you can tell it's a pretty bright object.
This is another one by Guillaume, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I should have mentioned that actually a moment ago.
He's done very well. The exposure of the core is very well preserved. So you can see there's still a lot of detail in there. Excellently well.
He's used
like Michael Richter's submitted one as well of M42. Another image.
Sure, have to go and dig that one out in just a moment. What I must say about this one as well is he used a program called PixInsight, which I've heard mentioned quite a bit. I've not used it myself, but I've had it recommended to me as part of kind of the processing side of things. Because of course, when you take photos like this, it doesn't come out like that. You then have to tweak and adjust things like levels, etc., to really bring out the fine details and preserve the kind of the darkness of space around it, etc. So it's there is a little bit of work to do when you take an image straight off. Oh, here we go. If I click on there we go. There's another picture of M42.
Just another one from one of our viewers, Michael Rector, who sent it through on the event page. And this is a pretty good version too. Again, you can see how bright it is. The trapezium is pretty well visible right in the middle, but you can still see not as much cloud detail as the other one, but you can still see the running man, and it's a nice big diffraction spikes and some cloud detail there as well. A very, very nice image, Michael. Thank you.
Lovely object. Right then, well, as Paul had to run out to his observatory to change things over, I really should do some... so he's got a Lunt B1 1800 Calcane module on an 80mm refractor. Okay, and this is a calcium K view of the Sun, which I believe is towards the ultraviolet end of the spectrum. And again shows different details. This is at 393 nanometers, so that's the specific wavelength of light that is being filtered out, so you just see that slither of light. Again, I really wish we had Paul able to talk, because this is he's put pictures up quite regularly on his Google Plus page. You should check it out, folks. It's Paul Stewart. I think it's just simply plus Paul Stewart. I can never remember exactly, but beautiful pictures of the Sun. And since getting a calcium K scope, I now want one. My bank manager disagrees. Paul Stewart NZ. You can find him on Google Plus as Paul Stewart NZ. So check it out. Check him out. It's some amazing photos.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I think the color is just by it's just sort of an agreed calcium color. It's not how it comes through on the camera, which is more monochrome anyway. Same as with the hydrogen, we tend to prefer, as viewers, we prefer the orange, reddy, yellow view of the Sun, but it just does come through more as a white monochrome.
I was going to say, I mean, from personal experience photographing the Sun in hydrogen alpha, I use a monochrome camera, and then yes, try to put back the color that you see through the eyepiece. If you're looking at through the eyepiece, it actually comes off much more red. When publishing photos, you tend to favour the kind of the hints of yellow and orange in there to make it just a bit more contrasty and lively. But when you look through the eyepiece, it is normally just a straight up various shades of red from going from deeper to lighter. So it's still a very spectacular view. But yeah, put the colour back in. I think people enjoy it more. Actually, Paul is using a color camera at the moment, but he usually uses the mono camera and color it purple because it's near that end of the spectrum, which makes sense. So it's an approximation, I suppose. If you could shift it into the, I mean, calcium K is again, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but it's not one that's particularly good for visual observation. Our eyes aren't particularly sensitive to that end of the spectrum. I believe, unless you're particularly young, I think the older you get, the less sensitive you are. Yes, yeah, apparently that's right. So, again, it's not an observational kind of bandwidth, but it's a beautiful one to photograph. And again, it shows really different features. I mean, we can see the sunspots at the bottom there, and then we can see these lighter areas, which show up much more in this end of the spectrum. I don't know whereabouts in the sun we're looking. I mean, is this further in the atmosphere? Or Paul's having to type so much, I suspect. Oh, I think Dylan's dropped out for a second there. Oh no, it's just me and thee, Kevin.
Oh.
yeah, no pressure.
Well, that's all right. Well, all of the different monochrome images that we see, whether it's hydrogen or calcium, they are looking at different levels of the photosphere, how deeply or how shallow your view actually is, determined by the spectrum.
That's again, so this is a different area of the sun being highlighted. There's an interesting barking noise in the background.
We know it's not coming from Paul.
No. Well,
sorry, that's my Byron Bay flora and fauna.
I was going to say, briefly change this into an animal show and ask what kind of animal's making that noise. But again, Paul is doing a brilliant job of bringing us live, and I think he's got some clouds coming in. You can tell it's live because it's getting darker. Those clouds. Oh, he is going to switch to a Barlow, though, and getting close for us. So whilst he's running to the observatory for the sake of science, I think we shall have a look at another picture.
See, this is live, everyone. We're not just pretending and throwing up photos from NASA's SOHO satellites.
Now then, Kevin, I'll let you take this one away and describe what we've got. So let's have a gander. I should still be screen sharing, hopefully. You should be able to see a pretty starry image.
I can see that. Very wide field. Very nice.
That's a much, again, from Guillaume, another of the same region. You can see the familiar shape of M42 over on the right there, but also it incorporates Orion's belt, three prominent stars just to the left of center and up the screen, and right in center screen we see some of another beginner's favourites, or maybe not the Horsehead Nebula, but certainly the Flame Nebula is the bright region just below the bottom star of Orion's belt there. The Flame Nebula, a very bright hydrogen alpha region. And just to the right of that, you can see and make out the shadow of the Horsehead Nebula, IC434 is its glorious scientific name. And just in the middle of that, the little dark shadow where the pointer is close to there now, that is the Horse's Head of the Horsehead Nebula. And you need to take very long exposures. It's actually quite a faint object, and to get detail out of it, you really need to take longer exposures than the Orion Nebula or the Flame Nebula require. But, I've seen some very beautiful, particularly hydrogen alpha images of that region. It's one of the places to test how good you are at astrophotography, is how good your Horsehead is. I've never taken a good one.
I have tried. I've tried to photograph the flame once, and even that didn't come out too well. So I've got a ways to go yet. And I've just noticed at the bottom here we have another one. I can't remember its name, but this is another one I've actually attempted to photograph before. It's quite a faint one. But as I say, the Orion constellation itself actually has a lot of nebulosity around it in general. I've seen hydrogen alpha photos of the entire constellation, and there's a lot of, I suppose, gas in that area of space, or at least between us and whatever objects are there as well. It is a
It
beautiful
contains
area.
Barnard's loop,
Yes.
extremely large area of ionized hydrogen with long exposures. You can really start to see the whole constellation light up.
The really tricky thing with the Horsehead and Flame in this region as an astrophotographer is that the star Alnitak is so bright, and you're trying to pull out the faint shape of the Horsehead, which takes a lot of exposure time, a lot of stability, and of course Alnitak is just glowing really brightly, and it really overpowers the beautiful delicate structures within the Flame Nebula as well. So I definitely had a hell of a time trying this object, and my versions aren't crash hot. I'll probably try again next year when they come back around for the summer.
Chris, that object you were looking at down to the bottom left of picture is M78.
Ah, M78. That rings a bell. Not a particularly imaginative name, M78, but you know.
Big enough for Messier to think that he could possibly mistake it for a comet and catalogue it.
that always makes me laugh. M42 was mistaken possibly for a comet.
Well, that was
is beautiful.
When Messier was a comet hunter and he wanted to catalogue all of the objects in the sky that could possibly be mistaken for a comet so that he didn't make that mistake. Many of the Messier objects, I guess, could be. A lot of the globular clusters could easily be mistaken for a comet. M42, I'm not quite so sure.
that would be quite
the asterisms too.
Now, actually talking of globular clusters, Tom did actually. I noticed in the Q&A app, Tom Nath has submitted a picture of M13. Dylan, I don't know if you could. I'm having difficulty trying to pull it up. If you could check the old event page to see if we can find it and share that out for everyone.
Oh, okay.
No pressure.
I'll have a look.
Now then, let's have a look.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, this one again by our wonderful submission from, again, I'm going to butcher the name, Guillemette. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he's very busy.
Yes. To be fair, he emailed through a whole bunch of pictures, and given the fact that I spent most of my day today photographing a wedding, not particularly spacey, I've not had much chance to prepare the rest. My apologies to everyone that has submitted. I will do better next time. This one is described as zodiacal light and Venus M45 conjunction. So let's have a look. Well, there's Venus. That one's easy to spot. And there's the Pleiades. So it's a lovely photograph. Again, quite a wide field view. It's got an 18 to 55 mil lens, a single shot of 20 seconds at 18 mil at f3.5. So again, it's wonderful when you don't have clouds in the sky. And no light pollution, of course, every astronomer's bane. So, Paul has got a Barlow in and bringing you the live.
Hey.
Check that out. More sunspots, folks, and you can see it's live. You can see that refreshing, how it's moving around. Most of that movement will actually be caused by it will be mostly caused by the atmosphere. It won't be Paul's mount in this case. It's the wonderful atmosphere which keeps us alive, wobbling around. And we've got AR2361 is the upper group there, and I missed the lower group. You did mention it though, Paul. Lovely active region on the sun. These sunspots, obviously, they've been observed for a long time now and catalogued by astronomers for over the many years now. And this is really some of the most, some of the very important observations and predictions about these. And actually, whilst I'm rambling on, I actually have something to do with the sun to share out, which is going to happen in the future. So I am going to bring you the future, ladies and gentlemen. Get a pen and paper ready. because if I stop screen sharing that, and I shall screen share. Oh, it may not be working. Let's have a gander. Right then, can we see that, folks?
Yes.
Right, this is Stellarium. If you ever wanted to find out where things are in the sky, it's a wonderful free program, well worth checking out. I'll probably leave a link in the YouTube page when that finally goes up. So yes, this is my backyard. Fisheye lens to photograph it all, and then all the information about location put in so that it simulates out where things are. So I can find them in the night sky, and makes life a lot easier for planning observations. But the sun, wonderful star, occasionally has things pass in front of it. Most of the time it's birds, aeroplanes, and occasionally the International Space Station. But there is also going to be, next year on May the 9th, a transit of Mercury. So if I zoom in to the sun, and then fast forward time a little bit. I might just turn the atmosphere off though. Da, da, da. So hopefully it should show up. There we are. Here's Mercury coming in, and this will last.
Very cool.
This will last for most of the day, but Mercury will pass in front of the disk of the sun. Like a very, very, very small version of the eclipse that the UK had recently, and will last actually most of the day. As you can see there, it's travelling across the disk of the sun quite slowly in terms of how long it takes. So if you have a solar telescope or any kind of solar film, there we go, it's now ducked behind a house somewhere, there we go. So that's where it will end for me. But yes, on May the 9th, for most of the day, although in May in the UK it's a particularly bad period of time to try and photograph anything because the weather is abysmal.
Well, I did look up the transit of Mercury just yesterday and discovered that the 2 transits next year are visible from everywhere in the world except Australia. So Kevin and I miss out.
Yep. I was just looking at those times and thinking that's all the way through the night.
Yeah.
In that case, then, whilst I'm normally bitterly jealous of your beautiful southern views, I'm just very, very professional here and go, ha ha.
I think you'll be due for a global star party that day.
Yes, I think that is something that will have to be broadcast live. I will find a way of finding a clear patch of sky and broadcast that, because that will be quite wonderful to watch and photograph. It should make for some lovely photos. And it's a very rare event because, to the best of my knowledge, it's going to be about 240-ish years until it happens again. So if you miss it this time around, you've missed it. Unless you're going to stick your brain inside a machine. And if you
I'm really quite impressed with what you've done with Stellarium there, Chris. What's involved with setting up your sort of backyard as the simulation there?
Right, you've caught me off guard. Thank you. I shall just I shall
Google it. That's fine.
Actually, I can go better if I load up the actual folder. Now, Stellarium has a folder inside it called Landscapes, and in there you'll find ones they've produced already. And what I did is I dropped my own in there now. I can't even find my actual doodad. There we go. Right. If I preview that. Right. Okay. I can now explain what I did. This will work. This is fine. Right. Okay. So if I preview that one. So you should now see a weird-looking panorama.
Yes.
Right. Now this I took using my digital SLR and a fisheye lens, although you could do something very similar using a mobile phone or a regular lens on a camera. You just have to take many more photos in order to get the full swathe. And I stitched this together as a panorama, hence its kind of rather weird distortion. and the very gigantic weed in the bottom corner there compared to everything else. And then in either Photoshop or GIMP or something like that, you set the sky, and luckily it was quite a grey day, so it was quite easy to remove the sky in this case. You set your sky to transparent and save it as a PNG within a folder within the landscapes, the Stellarium landscapes folder, and then you stick a landscape text file, which is renamed landscape.ini, and you set information like your longitude, latitude, and altitude, and then you set the angle rotation so that the north that you see on your compass matches the north that's in Stellarium, and it's pretty much good to go. I know that sounds a little involved, but it is a little easier than that. I mean, basically, you take a panorama, you take out the sky, make that transparent, and put it inside a folder that Stellarium can then look at. You can actually look in their folders to see how they've done theirs, and that's pretty much what I followed. I looked at their pictures and kind of just went from that.
That's really good. Thanks for that.
No worries. And as I say, it is not entirely accurate, but it has its uses. If I go back to going to Stellarium again, right, and put the atmosphere back on, because we need to breathe.
Well, it's helpful to know where your real horizon is from your viewing location.
Yes, I mean,
there may be objects that you think should be visible but aren't because of a house or a tree, etc.
I mean, in order to get it roughly to where I stood roughly where I placed my telescope most nights. And if I click to go to right now, as you can see, that's my sky right now. And Saturn, because I'm in the UK and not in Australia or New Zealand, is very low on the horizon, as you can see. In fact, it's horribly low on the horizon. So there we go. There's old Saturn, just clearing that rooftop there. But wonderfully tilted. So I can obviously wrap time backwards and forwards, and I can see where it's going to pass behind roofs, etc.
All I'm seeing is you.
Maybe it's technology. Darn you, technology. Right then, let's try and go back. I think it's now given up on trying to screen share Stellarium for me. Yeah, I think it's maybe.
No, that's all right.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go.
Yes. So yes, as you can see, Saturn just nips behind the rooftops there and doesn't come out to play. So it is quite useful. It's a wonderful program as it is, and it's free, which is always a bonus.
Yeah.
All right then, and I'm just going to click on pull, and wow, is that calcium K? That looks like calcium K.
Barlow.
Is that Barlow's calcium K? Yes, it is.
And I think Paul was saying this is a let me double check. 62. 2362 and 2361, which are the ones that are flaring up, or the active ones anyway.
Now I'm just having a look at the Q&A app down here. There's a lot of bits and bobs here, so let's have a look.
I wasn't able to find Tom Nath's M13. Sorry, I couldn't find that anywhere.
Well, we shall have to try and bring some submissions in more next time when I'm a bit more organised. Sorry about that, folks. Now, Tom has mentioned that the 2017 total eclipse passes really right over his house. His region star party, the Orion star party, is 20 degrees off the path of totality. They're expecting about 1,000 people to attend. So that's
very nice.
Really awesome.
We'll attend Tom's house. Excellent. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, right. Cheers, buddy. I'll have a beer too, thank you. No, I mean that's another thing as well that hopefully it's something that we can share out live over the internet, which will be fantastic. I mean, all these wonderful celestial events, when they do happen, even if they are quite rare, are great to share out. So
I've just got a
planning
quick.
to travel to the US.
I just have to make it a holiday, I reckon. I've never seen a total eclipse. In fact, to be fair, this year's partial eclipse was the first one I've ever seen. So, yeah, it's on my to-do list. It's on the bucket list.
So I
Could you
went to the one
share
that was
my
in
screen?
Queensland.
I have clicked on you, Dylan. I'm seeing some YouTube video.
Okay, this is just a quick one from Andrew Wall. It's not live, but it's close to because it's from this morning, I believe. Yes, this morning. The sunrise of the sun that we are looking at on Paul's live views, the same one, and you should be able to spot some of the sunspots here as it rises up, just there on the bottom.
Oh, nice. Now I'm going to do a classic request here, but can you embiggen that and replay
You know,
it?
I tried, but when I go full screen, it doesn't actually show. It just goes black.
Again, folks, technology, it's a wonderful thing. Now, I've got a comment here from Calvin in the Q&A app. It looks like he was wanting to join and stream some live views. So Calvin, are you? If you just leave a comment in the Q&A app, are you able to bring us anything live? If so, I shall send you an invite in. All right.
Yeah, and for any astronomer who wants to share their views, please get in contact with us. We have a little private community which you can join where we discuss the schedule and what's coming up and send the invites for the call and that sort of thing. So yeah, we are definitely looking for more astronomers, and we know that it's tough with clouds and weather, and these sorts of things happen or they don't happen. That's just the way astronomy works. So all we do is we have as many of us as possible, and if we can share, then we can share. So there's no obligation, but certainly join the community. Just send any of us a message, and we'll invite you to that private community.
I mean, yeah, that is definitely a thing. I mean, obviously, this is episode 2, the technological gremlins and me being an idiot episode. But we are really hoping to get as many people as possible involved with this to bring in their live views and share them to the world at large. It's something that is both. It's great fun to look at. It's wonderful to share these kind of things with the world at large, and it's something we want to do on a regular basis. Even when we're not able to share live views, we will still be putting a show together every weekend to just talk about the images that we may have been able to get, do some semi-live, and Paul will always come to rescue us with pictures of the sun. No matter how the clouds are like, no matter the weather or time, Paul will be here.
Yes, the master. I'd also like to give a shout out to Fraser Kane, who gave us his thumbs up approval the other day. He likes what we're doing with the Global Star Party. Also a shout out to Adam and the guys from the Astro Imaging channel as well, who also reshared the event. Their hangout is particularly fantastic. If you're an astro imager or just into astronomy in general, go check out the Astro Imaging channel. It is really, really good value.
Yeah, I mean, this is the wonders of Google Plus and modern technology when it wants to work. That is, you know, we can bring these wonderful views, and these kind of channels can exist where we can share something that we all love and enjoy with the global community. So it's something that I greatly enjoy. And if I hadn't have been photographing a wedding all day and had the time, I would have actually been able to stream live because it's actually clear out there for once. So next time round, hopefully no wedding to photograph beforehand. And maybe even some views of the moon, which is Dylan sharing a not so live view.
This is just a quick one before we go. I just wanted to throw up. This is the Clavius crater, and I believe Tycho as well, which features prominently in the Space Odyssey series as well. This is where there's a moon base set up. But Clavius is one of those lovely recursive craters that has craters within craters within craters, and it's just lovely. And this particular process was my first attempt at registack sharpening with some advice from Kevin's image the other night, which he shared, and I just noticed that the sharpening was really nice and crisp and even. And my job isn't quite as nice as the one he posted, but I just thought I'd quickly throw this one up.
Registax is a very rudimentary program. It's the one that most planetary and lunar images start with, and it's very easy to get used to using. There are some limitations to it, and I think most people eventually move over to auto stack it as their preferred stacking and putting image together program. But in terms of the wavelet sharpening of Registax, I think if you use it correctly, you can get a very sharp and natural-looking result. I know Paul, because he can't talk, and I can say what I like without him arguing, so that there are AstroImage is the program he likes to use, and there they use more of a deconvolution process, which is a different way of achieving the same sort of result, but he finds it more reliable. And again, we all have our preferences, things we're used to. We talked about PixInsight before. Those of us who are used to using Photoshop, we can get similar sort of results using a more standard photographic program.
I was going to say, it's very much a case of, there are many tools out there. I think it's a case of pick the one that works best for you and you're most comfortable with. Always experiment, but yeah, I mean, get used to one and get good with it, and you can produce results that other programs can produce just as well. So it's, there's a lot, luckily, out there for you to try out.
And always pick the free program before you pay money.
Oh yes,
That's right.
Yes.
We've got another view here from Paul.
We've gone hydrogen alpha.
Ooh, that's lovely.
You lovely and bright active region there, and some prominences and some prominences just off to the right hand side. That is lovely. And I should quickly look through some of this Q&A. Thank you, Tom, for being such an active participant. It's always good to have you in the peanut gallery.
Thanks, Calvin, for sharing a link on the event page about how to create a personalised view for Stellarium.
And good grief, Tom managed to drop his solar scope on cement. That would make me cry. I would actually unashamedly cry if that happened to me. And Kevin here is sharing out a really, really detailed view of the moon.
Yes, this is the one.
Well, this is the one Dylan was referring to. I've used 3 completely different sharpening methods on that one. First of which was the wavelet sharpening in Registax, which got me so far. And then once I got into Photoshop, I did a smart sharpen, just a single click smart sharpen with I think about a half of a pixel in the settings. And then just for good measure, I thought I'd do what they call a high pass filter. And I suppose we can talk about the technique there, but it's just another way of adding sharpness to an image, which is generalizable to all your photographic outcomes, not just your astro imaging. You can use it on your day-to-day happy snaps. If you have an image that you think's just a little bit somber in its contrast, you can sharpen it up a bit using the high pass filter function.
I just did a wedding shoot. I'm now going to take one of the random photos from that and see what happens. I've never tried to apply that technique to a regular photo, so I'm going to give that a go.
So yeah, this is the Batavius region. Batavius is a crater out on the far western limb of the moon, which is very good crater to view in the early crescent phases of the moon, but this is just after full moon, a couple of days after full moon, when the sun is setting on that region. It's a lovely crater because it's got that very prominent straight line running from the mountains to the near rim. And conspiracy theories abound. Of course, any straight line generates some theory of alien or mechanical function.
That's what the moon base is, yeah.
Well, that's it. It's probably the Nazi helium-3 mine is located right in that mountain range.
Shh!
Now
We'll get taken off air! Yeah, that is a fantastic feature. Again, the shadowing and everything is spectacular detail there.
It is very difficult. It's very difficult when it's that close to the terminator. Most of the stacking programs will struggle to get it lined up, and you can see Stevinus crater is quite clear and crisp because it's just that little bit further away from the terminator. When you get out to the dimmer parts, it does become difficult for the programs to find the alignment points, and so it's very difficult to get a very clear image. But I was reasonably happy with that. This is with a 2x Barlow lens on top of the usual setup. I just come from imaging Saturn on the same night, and the seeing was good enough that I thought I'd give it a try on the moon. I don't often do that because it doesn't often result in very crisp imaging.
Say
this one is really, really good. I was really impressed with this one.
Because the moon can be tricky to get. Not so much from a finding it or seeing it point of view, but to image. I mean, seeing again plays with every image is always a massive factor. I mean, admittedly, my first images of the moon, I was quite impressed that I could see craters, but they were quite smeary with no real fine details. That's some lovely fine detail in there. I especially like the little crater. Just on the crater wall there. It's just above your cursor, actually. This little one a bit further up. Yeah, it's just little details like that. Yes, that one there. I don't.
And the rills, you can see the fine crevices.
Well, those are the Nazi transport roads for the helium-3, but shh.
Of course. And I always like seeing the central peaks casting their shadows. That's all. It always makes for a very dramatic image. It sort of brings it into reality that there's actually a mountain there that is casting a shadow.
Here's a no-pressure question at all. Calvin asks, how wide is that crater?
That would be about 140 kilometres.
Oh, jeez. You're on the ball.
Small dint, and yeah, well, that was a fast answer. You've got a Wikipedia page open, haven't you?
No, I researched it.
Oh, all right, okay, fair play.
I knew that question was coming.
Oh, darn it. Next time round, try and throw some really awkward questions. And the Astro Imaging channel have Stellarium set up with a panorama inside the observatory and horizons. And the wife saw it and bought a new camera. So,
believe me, about 5 minutes before this broadcast, when we had no live telescopes, Chris and I were trying to find out a way where we could broadcast Stellarium and somehow trick everyone into thinking we had live views, seeing as his backyard was set up there. But no, thankfully it didn't come to that because Paul rescued us at the last minute with his wonderful solar views.
Yes, thank you, Paul. I know you're mute right now and you're bringing us some beautiful hydrogen alpha, thank you. That is pretty special. Yes, everyone, get into solar imaging. It's fantastic. Just get into astronomy in general, really. But unless there's anything else, I think we're nearing. Dylan, we made it. We made it to an hour. We thought this was going to be a 10-minute show with no live views.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, can come to the rescue every time.
Yes, thank you, Paul. As I said, Paul will be here all the time, no matter what the weather. No pressure, Paul. You might need a plane.
And thanks so much, Chris. I know you've had a long day shooting a wedding, so you've actually done really well to pull it all together. And you don't even look drunk on camera. So I can't believe you've pulled it off.
I only had 2 beers. It's fine.
And thank you, Kevin, as well for your support and your commentary and your wonderful photography as usual. Really great.
Pleasure.
Hopefully we'll have a new episode schedule up shortly. We'll pick a continent and go with that. And if anyone would like to help out or join in or even join in the call with commentary or live views, please let us know, and we'll do our best to get you another show up real soon.
Yes, please do. Please do join us. You can find us on Google+. We have a Google+ page, so you can find Global Star Party. We publish photos, events, etc. there, and what's coming up next. You can join in and comment on these things. And you can find the individuals as well. So Paul Stewart, who can't talk at the moment, so he's going to have to use some kind of imaging sign language or something, but he is Paul Stewart NZ on Google+. We have Kevin Franklin, who is, according to his little subtext there, plus Kevin Franklin. Yep.
That's me.
So go and check out his recent and amazing photo of Saturn and all his other brilliant work. You know, still slightly envious of that Saturn. And then we have Dylan, who is my co-conspirator for this show.
You'll find me on geography.com and Google+, and on Instagram as Dylan_O'Donnell_.
So basically what you're saying is you do all the socials, you can find him everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can find me, the somewhat useless at posting events guy, at CKMU on Twitter, and plus Chris Kennedy on Google+, where I publish all my space and astronomy stuff and the occasional random bit of, you know, telescope pictures and things like that. So pictures of equipment and my frustrations with PhD guiding. So I need to get more practice with balancing my scope. But we shall see how that goes. Thank you very much for joining us. You know, really appreciated the support and for you guys following and looking at this stuff. We're hoping to bring you more live. Hopefully, don't get me wrong, Paul is brilliant, but hopefully not all the pressure will be on him, and we can bring some live nighttime astronomy, some Jupiter, some Saturn, Moon, and some deep sky stuff. Paul did bring a brilliant job of some hydrogen alpha images last show, and hopefully we can get more of you guys involved and bring in more telescopes and really get the ball rolling on this. So thank you for joining us for episode 2. I'm going to have another cup of coffee in a moment, as it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I have still some stuff to do. So no matter what time it is in the world for you guys, thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next weekend. All right, thank you and goodbye from us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.